All right, here we go. Think we're finally ready. All right, let's see what we got here. So let me see if this is going to write. Yes, it is. Okay, everything's good. Now let's put some stuff on here. A, B, C, D. So you try to draw this thing the best you possibly can. Try it again. Should be writing, shouldn't be laughing, shouldn't be talking. You should be writing this down. Just try it. Stop telling me that you can't. Just try it. Okay, well, don't tell it to me then. Then just don't do anything, okay? Stop telling me that you can't draw it. That's all I'm asking you. Oh my gosh. Yes. Just sit and watch then if you can't draw it. I'm saying if you can draw it, draw it. Okay? All right, there's a couple more things on here. This right here, call that J. Yes. I didn't even draw it. I did hear you. No. Dylan. No. Dylan, have a seat. There's no getting up without asking my permission. You don't just get up whenever you want. It's not how it works in here.
My apologies.
Just try to draw it, okay? I'm not going to help you. If you can't draw it, don't worry about it. Just watch, okay? It's on the video. You can look in the book. The picture's in the book, okay? You don't have to draw it, all right? I didn't think it would be that big of a deal. But so don't draw it if you can't draw it. Oh, my word. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some words here. I'm going to put those words over off to the side. We're just going to talk about them a little bit. Let me just push this over a little bit so that I have some room to write my words. All right, the first word is called coplanar points. So these are some more definitions. So you can write this, okay? Hopefully everybody can write this at least. Okay, coplanar points. So coplanar, that's how it's spelled with the AR at the end, and then points. It's called coplanar points, okay? And they're points that lie in the same plane, all right? I don't have enough room. I'm just going to read it to you. You write it down. Points that lie in the same plane, okay? Points that lie in the same plane. That's coplanar points. So what do you think it means if it says it's non-coplanar? That's right. They don't lie in the same plane. Okay, so they don't lie in the same plane. So let me give you an example, just a visual example of coplanar points. So watch. This piece of cardboard I'm showing right here represents a plane. So if I talk about points that are coplanar, that means they lie on the same plane. So if I had a point here, I'm not going to draw it, just point to it. If I have a point here, and a point here, that means they're in the same plane. Okay, what if I had a point here, 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 and then one out here like this? Then they're non-coplanar, correct? Then all of those points are non-coplanar. So if I have points in the same plane, they're called coplanar points. Co means with, all right? It means they're within the same plane, all right? Everybody with me on that? We have points. What's the next thing we have after points? When we did that undefined terms, we said point, then what? Line. Very good. We had point, and then we had lines. So you could also have lines in the same plane. And so I'm going to write that down in a second, but let me just show you. So let's say this pen right here represents a line. So if that is in here, and then I had a second line like right here, then both of those lines are sitting on that plane. Okay, they're on the plane. So that means they're coplanar what? Lines. Okay, they're coplanar lines. But if I just had a dot here, and a dot here, that means they're coplanar what? Points. Okay, so let's write down coplanar lines, and it's the same thing. They're lines that lie in the same plane. So, but let's write it down so that you see the word. So coplanar lines. So coplanar lines are lines that lie in the same plane. So let's show you non-coplanar. So what if I had a line right here, and then I had a line out here like this? Then it's not in the same plane. Okay, it's got to be in the same plane to be coplanar. If you have one line that's sitting on the piece of cardboard and one line out like this, then it's not coplanar. So here's a question. What if, and you're going to see something like this on the homework problems, what if you had a line and it went through? Now, I'm not going to poke a hole in this, but pretend, right? It hits here and it goes through out the other end like this, all right? So if I had something that stuck right through it, is that considered coplanar? Do they lie on the same plane? Does this point lie on this plane?
Yeah.
It's not on the plane. This is on the plane. When it's sitting like this is on. It's through it, right? But a word that we use in geometry. So everybody listen. We've got people talking. In geometry.
Oh. What's that?
In geometry, if this line goes through the plane like this, we say it intersects the plane, right? Now, how does it intersect the plane? Where, like, when it comes through, where does it hit this plane? At a what? It makes a what if it goes through it? It makes a hole, but it's a dot, or in geometry, we call it a what? A point, that's right. So listen, so a line that intersects a plane intersects at a point. Do you hear what I said?
Yeah.
A line that intersects a plane, where does it intersect? It intersects at a point. Tomorrow. No, you stay right there. All right. Well, you should have gone before you came in here.
Somebody would get a joke to that.
Okay. Let's talk about this. This is a weird word. It's a word that we always define, we always talk about, but we don't really use all that often. But there is a problem, I think there is a problem in the homework that asks about this, okay? It's a weird word. It's probably a word you may not have ever heard before. S-K-E-W, that's a K. It's skew. It's a skew line. A skew line is not coplanar, okay? They're lines that don't lie in the same plane, all right? Lines that are not coplanar, all right? So you could consider it non-coplanar, all right? And that's fine. But we have a specific name for it. We call them skew lines. So, for instance, that's what they call it. That's just the word. Why do they call it?
That's S-K-E-W.
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 All right, what if I had these two lines? So I got these two pens. They represent lines, all right? So what if I had a pen like this, a line, right? It's going across like this, and a line like this, okay? Are they going to intersect each other? This one and this one. They'll never intersect each other. So they're also not in the same plane, all right? Like this line right here would be in this plane. This line right here would be in this plane. You see that? So they're not in the same plane. They'll never intersect each other. So we call these lines what? Skew lines, okay? So let's let's talk about this first, and we'll write down another line or another word. Now, what about this? What about these two pens? Everybody look up here. You got these two pens right here, all right? Now, they are not going to intersect each other, right? Because that line keeps on going this way, this line keeps on going this way. They'll never intersect each other, but are they skew lines?
No.
Why not?
Because they're parallel.
Okay, they are parallel. That's good. That's the word we're going to use. But why are they not skew? Because they lie on the same plane. And where is that plane? It's the plane that they're both sitting on right here. Okay? So, for instance, if I had this, I need another hand, but you get the idea. So, like if I had like this and like this, and if they never intersect each other, but they lie on the same plane, they're coplanar, they never intersect. And Dylan, what'd you say? They're parallel to each other. Very good. All right, so let's write that down. So I'll tell you the formal definition in a second. But that's what parallel lines are. Now, parallel lines are really, really important. I mean, coplanar, you'll hear it every once in a while. Skew, you might hear it just very infrequently. A couple times you'll talk about skew lines. But parallel lines are huge in geometry. We're going to do a lot of stuff with parallel lines. All right? So parallel lines are super, super important. Now, what do parallel lines do? They're coplanar. That means they lie in the same plane, but they don't intersect each other. Okay? They're coplanar, but they don't intersect each other. Remember, skew lines don't intersect each other, but they are non-coplanar. They do not lie in the same plane. That's what skew lines are. All right, so there's a huge difference between the two. But there's some similarities. The similarity is that they'll never intersect. They'll never, ever touch each other. But skew lines are in different planes. Parallel lines are in the same plane. Does that make sense? We have a symbol for parallel lines. I'm going to put it in parentheses, so it's just off to the side. It's very simple. It's just two up and down lines. Okay, that means parallel lines. So if I talk about two lines being parallel to each other, that's what I would have. So for instance, let's look at this picture. Okay, we got one more word to talk about before we do more with the picture. But for right now, let's just do this. Find me two pairs of parallel lines. Okay, Evan, give me one pair. J and K.
Yo, that is Joe. I ain't gonna lie. No, he do that.
Now listen, I'm talking about lines. So if you just say J, is J a line?
No.
If you name a line with just one letter, what kind of letter does it have to be? If you name a line,
Wait, you said it one more time?
it's the other one. What is it? It's lowercase, right? Okay, so it's lowercase. You don't have any lowercase letters here, do you?
No.
Okay, so if I was going to name a line, what do we use to name a line? Yeah,
You gotta put it on top of that.
okay, you put a little line on top of it, but what do you need as far as how many points? You need 2 points. You need 2 points. So I cannot just say line J and line K. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, I need 2 points. So if you are talking about this one right here, what could you call it? Line what? Don't say A2E, just say AE. Don't say A and E, just say line AE. All right? So with the line on top. So watch. So if I wanted to say that AE is parallel to something, so I write line AE and then the parallel symbol. The parallel symbol is that. Well, what is AE parallel to? There's actually 3 other things that it could be parallel to. Give me one. So here's AE. This is your line right here. What other line is parallel to AE? DH. Good. DH right here. They lie in that same plane, the front of that box. For instance, let's say I got a box right here. Pretend this is AE. This one right here is DH. They lie in this plane. You see that?
Yeah.
What else, though, is AE parallel to? BF. This one right here. Okay? And you're right. CG is right, but I'm going to do this one first. So if this is AE right here, this is BF right here, what plane do they lie on? They lie on this plane right here. They lie on 2 different planes than AE and DH, but they still, AE and BF, these 2 right here, they still lie in the same plane. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then what? AE and what? CG. That would be the corners, right?
Yeah.
Like the ones that are diagonal.
Yeah.
So this would be AE, and back here would be CG, and they are parallel to each other. Now, you don't see the plane, right? The plane's not really drawn, but if you had a plane, let's take this cardboard, right? If you like connected them like this, they would both lie on that plane. Does it make sense? Even though it's not drawn on here? So that's what's going on. So AE could be parallel to DH, line DH. AE could be parallel to line BF, and line AE could also be parallel to line CG. Let's just do the front one though, AE and DH. So I write DH, put a little line symbol over top of it. And again, when I talk about line AE, I don't say A and E. I don't go A to E. I just say line what? AE. All right. So that's what I would say. And right here, I don't say line D and H. All right. It's line DH. Now, I could have named this. Look at this AE. I could have named it something else. This line AE. I could have named it something else and it would be the exact same line. What else could I have named line AE? Talked about this almost in day 1. Jamari, what'd you say? I can't just say J. Remember, we discussed that already. You can't just call this line J. You got to have 2 points.
J-E.
You could call it EA, right? So you could go the other way. You're right. You'd call it EA, but there's a couple other things you could call it.
F-E.
J what? JA, right. You could call it JA or AJ. I heard you just say J.
I grasped that.
Yeah, but I just didn't hear you. I just didn't hear you. I thought you just said J, and that's why I said it. So AJ, JA, AE, or EA. You could also call it what? JE or EJ. There's a whole bunch of things you could call that, okay? But most of the time, if you have a situation like this, it's perfectly fine to use all those other combinations. But most of the time what we would do is we would just like use the first one and the last one. Okay, that's what we would normally do. But you could call it AJ or EJ if you wanted to. But if it was me, I'd probably call it AE. All right? What about AB? Is there anything else you could call AB? BA, and that's it, right? There's no point in between that's marked, that's labeled. So that's the only thing I could call that. But what about this DH? I could call that a bunch of things. I could go the other way, call it HD. That's right, you got it now. DK, KD, call it KH or HK. You can call it any of those. Does that make sense? And when you write a line, you should always write the line symbol over top of it. So this thing right here tells you something. This tells you that line AE and line DH are parallel to each other. Exactly right. Okay? So remember I talked about geometry kind of has its own language, its own verbal language, and its own written language. That's what this means right here. All that stuff means something specific. And you got to keep up with this because we're going to be using this stuff day after day after day all through the entire year. So make sure that you understand what's going on there. Okay, one more thing. We could have parallel planes. All right, let's get the box again. So what do you think must be true about parallel planes? Parallel planes are planes that do not intersect each other. All right, so if they're parallel, they'll never touch, right? Parallel lines never touch each other. Same thing with parallel planes. So let's, like the front, we'll just call front, back, left, right, bottom, top, okay? So this front right here is parallel to what else on this box? The back, exactly right. The front and the back are parallel to each other. If this was to extend forever, up and down, left and right, the back, if it extended up and down, left and right, they would never touch each other. They would be parallel planes. Does that make sense? There's other parallel planes. There's this side one. There's this other side one. Pretend there's a top to this. Okay, the top one and the bottom one would also be parallel to each other. So let's look at this picture right here. Let's use the letters that they give us. So let's say this front one. So we'll call it, if there's no little letters in the corner, how do we name a plane? We name a line with 2 points. How do we name a plane with points? With 3. That's right, 3 points. So this front one right here, this ADHE, all right, how would we name it if we wanted to name it as the plane? So we would name it plane what? We pick just 3 of those 4 letters. It doesn't matter. So let's just call it what? ADH, or you could call it ADE, or any combination of those 4 points, okay? Just pick 3 of them, and you could call it that plane. So what do you want to call it? AD what? I already got AD down. Let's go H. All right. So BAD is a different plane than the front plane. I'm talking about this front plane right here. This one right here. Okay, that's the one I want to name. So I could name it ADH. I could call it AEH. I could call it ADE. It doesn't matter. All right. But as long as you use 3 of the letters that are in that plane. So that's this plane. Name me a plane that's parallel to plane ADH. So we got to use letters. So this is the front. Remember we did the box thing. This is the front. What plane is parallel to it? The one in the back. All right. And so give me 3 letters that the back contains. BC what? F? Is that what you said? Yeah. B, C, and F. Okay, that's perfectly fine. So I could call it BCF. Is that the only thing I could call that plane? No, there's a whole bunch of things. right? Whatever. Look, I got B, I got C, I got L, I got G, I got F. Any combination of those three letters, you could call that plane, all right? So again, what does this mean? This means this front plane is parallel to this back plane, all right? So we got to know how to write stuff down first before we actually start doing real math, which we will in a lesson or two, okay? Probably a couple lessons from now. I think we'll actually be doing some real math in here. But you got to know how to write stuff down. You have to know how to read it. You got to understand what's going on, okay? All right, so I think that pretty much covers everything that you need to know. Oh, let's do this. Let's answer some questions that they have on here. If you have your book open, you can just look in the book. It shouldn't be an actual question. How could you possibly ask that question? It's the only book that I gave you. It says geometry on the front. I don't know how more plain that could possibly be. I'm sorry. You're getting me frustrated because you're asking. People say all the time, teachers tell kids, you can ask me anything. There's never a dumb question. Well, I don't. Yeah, that was. I'll admit it. What book did I give you?
Yo, y'all was going together. Like,
all right, here's the first question. Name. So here's a question. This is the kind of stuff that you're going to see on the homeworks. So name 4 coplanar points. Put this in your notes. I'll give you a little bit of time. I can. All right, that's the first one. This is an example in the book. Name 4 coplanar points. Now, a lot of us might have different answers, but that doesn't mean that we're all wrong. Okay? Everybody in here might write something different down, but we could all have the exact answer because there's a lot of different combinations, okay, of answers that this could possibly be. So you have to understand that. So, Evan, what do you see? Name 4 coplanar points. What does coplanar mean? It means points that lie in the same plane. So give me 4 points that lie in the same plane. You have a lot of different options. A lot of different options. So just give me one of those options. All these points? Well, they're points. They're made. See this right there? That's point A. This right there is point B. Say it again. A, D, what? J, E. Okay, good. They all lie on the front of that box right there. Okay, hear what she said? A, D, J, and E. That would be fine. Now, they're not lines. They're just points. So we just separate them by commas. So she said A, D, and then what? J and E? Yeah? That's perfectly fine. There's a ton of other options that you could put down and still get a right answer. Judah, give me another option. So she did that front one, A, D, J, and E. Give me another 4 points that lie in the same plane. B, C, F, and L. Good. That's the back one. All right? You could write that down. And that's perfectly fine. Look, they have no common points at all. But both of those answers are completely right. Evan, give me another one. A, B, C, D. Okay, the one on the top. That's good. So you could do that. A, B, C, and D. Everybody see that? So that's what they're asking for. All right. The next problem says, if I could read this, for non-coplanar points. So name for non-coplanar points. Now that means 3 of them could be on the same plane, but the 4th one cannot be on the same plane. Everybody see that? This is your notes. These are examples. All right, Jared, help me out. Give me 4 non-coplanar points. So 3 of them could be in the same plane, but the 4th one cannot be in the same plane. Okay, J and K, L, and F. Yeah, they would be non-coplanar, right? J and K are on the same plane, but F is not on the same plane as J and K, all right? and L is not on the same plane as J and K. So yeah, that would work. J, F, K, and L. All right. Somebody else. Amir, help me out. Give me
B, C, G.
A, B, C, and what?
G.
G. Yep, that would be good too. Right? A, B, and C are on the same plane. G, C, and B are on the same plane, but all four of them, they're not on the same plane. Very good. All right? You can write those. Pick whatever one you want. All right? And then part C to this problem says, name two pairs of coplanar lines. Two pairs of coplanar lines. So we're talking lines this time. We're not talking just points. What does it mean to be coplanar? They lie in the what? Same plane. Okay? So two lines that lie in the same plane. All right? Danae, help me out. They got to be in the same plane and two lines. So let's make it as easy as possible. Let's just take that front one right here. Okay? That's the same plane. Give me two lines that are in that front plane right there. AD, good, that's one. So how do we write it? We don't just write AD. What do? It's a line, so we put the line thing on top, okay? All right, give me another one. Say it again. DH. All right, good. DH. All right, so I just put a comma and DH. All right, very good. So those are two pair of coplanar lines. They lie on the same plane. They don't have to be parallel, okay, which they're not. AD and DH are not parallel to each other. It's fine. It doesn't say they have to be parallel. They just got to lie on the same plane. Does that make sense? That's the kind of stuff that they're going to ask you to do. Part D says, now they are going to ask for parallel. So two pairs of parallel lines this time. So two pairs of, I'll just put the symbol down, parallel lines. See, that way it's a little shorter. We don't have to write the whole word out. All right, Evan. AJ and what was the other one? Okay. You said DK though, right? Yeah, it'd still be the same exact thing. Right. So he finished it by saying line AE and line DH. It's perfectly fine. So line AE right there. And then I like to put parallel to line DH. Okay, good. And there's a whole bunch of other ones in there as well, aren't there? You could go AB and DC. You could go AB and EF. You could go EH and FG, right? As long as they lie in the same plane and they don't touch each other, then they would be parallel. All right, I think there's one more to do. And then we'll be done. Now there's two more to do. Two pairs of skew lines. Skew. Funny word, skew. Sometimes it's... All right, forget the skew one. Let's do parallel planes. All right. E. So this is F. So two pairs of parallel planes. Okay, so which planes would not touch each other? Let's do the front first. So plane ADH, and what other plane would not intersect this front plane right here? Just talk to me as far as front and what? Front and back. Okay, so let's look at the back plane. So Neil, what'd you say? BFG? Yep, very good. So plane BFG. So plane ADH and plane BFG. There's two planes. They don't intersect each other, and that's it. All right. I'm going to give you a homework assignment. It's on the paper I gave you, but I'm going to write it down anyway. So if somebody's watching this on YouTube, there we go. All right. So, oh, by the way, well, that's okay. I'll just do it. So it's section 1-2. It's pages 8 and 9. And you're doing numbers 1 to 18. So that's your homework right there. Have a seat. Bell's not wrong. Have a seat. Have a seat. All right, there's your homework right there. It's on the paper I gave you today, and I also put it up on RenWeb. All right, so 3 different places. There's no way that you should not know what your homework is in here. Okay, so get that finished. We'll go over it tomorrow in class.